So today we're looking at CHCCCS015, which is provide individual support. So what is our current understanding of what we mean by individual support? Tell me what you think that means.
Customised.
Customised?
Care plan suited for that individual.
Individual tailoring of a care plan.
So centre care approach.
Yeah, good. Yep. So the idea of individualised support is held in the philosophy of person-centred practice. And in the industry, they'll talk about person-centred practice. When you go for a job interview, they'll say, what's your understanding of person-centred practice? And fundamentally, everyone you work with in disabilities must be treated as unique and as an individual. So emergency procedures, the closest exit is to the right at the door. Rally point is under the big sign. Out the back there's another exit depending on where the trouble is. Please put your phones on silent. We will have breaks, and if you choose to smoke you can do so, which is out the back. Keen for people to ask questions. Let's be nice to each other, and basically the rules are that we're nice to each other. Okay, so our objectives today are to learn how to determine support needs, but in a way that is person-centred. Know how to provide support services, understand how to monitor support activities, show how to complete reporting and documentation, gain the skills and knowledge to get this unit done. So, our first element, 1.1, if you scroll down in the learner guide to where you see 1.1, not the index, but the page, 1.1 you want?
Page 11.
Page 11, thanks. Scroll to page 11. So now you're looking at a richer amount of information, but I'm talking to you in a summarised kind of way. So you may want to write in the paper copy of the workbook you've got, refer page 11, learner guide. So I'm about to talk to you about the information that's on page 12 of the learner guide forward. Okay? So each unit, this particular unit, has a number of elements. The first element is broken into sections. So we'll start with the first part of the first element, which is interpret and clarify your own role in implementing individualised plan and seek appropriate support for aspects outside scope of own knowledge, skills or job role. So what do we mean by scope of own knowledge?
Your general understanding?
Not quite. If you do not have a first aid certificate,
Okay.
that means what?
You can't work. You can't, like, you can work, but you can't. If they have a small injury, like in next band-aid, you're not allowed to do it. You have to get someone with a first aid to do it.
Because you don't have the qualification.
Yes.
Therefore,
It may just be a band-aid, but you could, like, use gloves and whatnot because they could carry a disease. You could make them very sick.
very good, AJ. So the point I'm making is, if you don't have your first aid certificate, it's outside of your scope.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in the same way, you need to know what the limits of your professional capacities are in delivering disability support work. So, what is your role in implementing an individualised plan? So, it's very unlikely that just one person is responsible for everything, unless they have qualifications as a GP, a psychologist, a counsellor, and very few people have all those qualifications.
But it also depends on where you work too.
To a degree, but it also is about the law. Different people complete different tasks. So it's very common that you've got the person you're supporting here, you're the support worker there, but then there's someone that takes the client on outings, then there's a GP that sees the client, then there may be social activities that they go to, then there's their family, friends, carers, and everyone is playing a different role, all working towards the same goal of supporting the person with disabilities. So it's very important that when you're in the workplace, you interpret and clarify your own role. How can you do that in the workplace? Where do you go to see what your job role is?
Go to your manager, supervisor, RM.
Possibly, but there'd also be a document.
Or doctor, yeah.
His job description.
Your job description or your position description. So usually when you're employed, you have a position description that clearly identifies what your responsibilities are. If you're uncertain, then you go to your manager or supervisor and get clarification. If you are employed by someone that doesn't give you a position description, then I'd be worried about that employer. Don't attempt something that is not part of your role. Why wouldn't we attempt something that is not part of our role?
You can leave them for dead. They could die or they could end up having brain damage.
That's right, and also you're open to being sued. If you're doing something you're not approved to do, if something goes wrong, you can be considered negligent by the law. Be aware of expectations and limitations of your role. Avoid overstepping boundaries and ensure you don't fail to meet expectations. So how can we avoid overstepping boundaries?
Know what your job is.
Correct. And you can do that by reading your position description. Also, clarification from your supervisor. Good stuff. Seeking support. So we may face something that is outside of our scope, knowledge, skills, or job role. If that happens, we look for the appropriate support. We don't ignore things. If something needs doing but you're not qualified, you should find someone who is.
Well, it really actually depends on what type of circumstances it is at the time and at that very moment. If it's death threatening,
Yeah.
and you don't know where that registered person is, you
Yeah.
can take him matters in your own hands
Yeah.
by a certain degree of safety till you bring him out of that danger zone.
Okay, so some things are more threatening than others, but what we're talking about here is part of the skill of being a support worker is knowing when to look for more help. And it may not be a life and death thing. It may not.
Yeah, you may not. Right, say go and look for someone.
Yeah, so looking for additional help leads to better care for your clients. So knowing okay, here's me, I'm not a GP, but I can see that my client's very flushed and red. There may be a problem with hydration or diabetes or blood pressure. So I'm smart enough to know it's time to call the GP or make sure someone else does. That's what we're talking about. So, question 1A. What does question 1A say?
Provide a general summary of your job role and job description and how this relates to your role in implementing individualized plans,
Yep.
where relevant, references and
Yep.
qualifications and training that you have.
Okay, so for those of you who are not working in the industry, what you can do is Google position description support workers, and you will find a summary of job role. This is what a person needs to be able to do in order to deliver support work. The second part of that question is saying, identify individual plan for one client, interpret, clarify your own role in implementing it. Now, I believe that there's a number of documents in the learner guide, templates, and I think there are also case study scenarios. But if you're finding you're struggling with those examples, again, you can Google. So you can identify an individualised plan for one person with disabilities. You can run a search and you will find a template. And going from the position description that you research, you can identify what your own role would be in implementing the plan. Your duty of care. Who's familiar with the term duty of care? And what do we reckon it means? What does the term duty of care mean?
Your responsibilities to individuals or the group that you work.
Our responsibilities, and even a broader definition is that as professional caregivers we must ensure no harm to others, no harm to ourselves, no harm to property. That is our responsibility under the common law. And also it's asking you to consider the client's personal needs, targets and preferences. So this is under question 2 on the first section, under question 2. So summarise your answer, 150 to 250 words. So that is handwriting, if it's reasonably not too big, about half a page. So it's not that much. Ensuring your client remains anonymous. Identify items in the individualised plan that help you to interpret and clarify your own role. So what you can do for that is create, if you like, an imaginary scenario. So you may say that you're working with a male who is 47 years of age, has Down syndrome and diabetes, and is intellectually moderate. Now from that,
Read the bottom, so you've got Down syndrome, you've got
diabetes,
and I am.
intellectually moderate. So I'm just making this up. You can make up your own scenario.
Oh, I just couldn't.
Yeah, no worries, mate. So from that, you can draw conclusions. If somebody is 47 and they're male, they're at a certain time in life. If they're intellectually moderate with Down syndrome and they have diabetes, then obviously they need to take care not to have carry too much weight. They need to have regular consultation with physicians. They need to, you know, have tests for blood pressure and all sorts of stuff. So you can create your own client, or you can use that, it's up to you. But you can logically deduce. All right, so we've got people around the client. GP, this is our client here. We'll call him Fred. And Fred has got me, the support worker. Fred's got, likes to go line dancing. Fred goes to the community neighbourhood centre every week. And often with diabetes, people start to get things like arthritis a bit younger. And Fred's got a dicky knee. So his knee is playing up. But we need Fred to keep moving around because he's diabetic and he needs to exercise and lose weight.
So I got a question on these.
Yep.
So they want us to put all these 3 questions into that one page.
When you fill it out in your electronic version of the workbook, you can insert type, so the page will get bigger.
Yeah.
So, yeah? So, question 3 lists 3 different scenarios that could occur when working with individualised plans that could go beyond the scope of your own knowledge. So, think about it. What can't we do if we're working with someone? What can't you do?
Anything that's not on their care plan?
Yes, but think about, can you diagnose illness?
Okay, no.
Right, so who can?
A medical practitioner.
Okay, so there's one example. What's another example?
Medication.
Yep. And what about a different discipline?
Different what?
Discipline.
No.
So what other specialists do people need to go to?
A pharmacist.
Yeah, you can't disperse.
OT.
There you go. Now, so the question is asking you, there you go. It's asking you, identify 3 experts that you cannot do their work, but you know when you need to refer to them.
So is that where it says list 3 different?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's mainly identify 3 experts.
But also why you would refer to them. Okay. So if you've got some notes in there you can refer back to. Does anyone have any questions before we move on?
So first one is basically provide a general summary of your description. Second one is identify your client, and that's the third one, identify 3 experts and
Correct.
And why.
Spot on, AJ. You're on the money, mate. Good work. All right. We're going to move to the next question. Here we go. So, in the learner guide, we're now up to 1.2, and in the workbook, that's question 1B. So you need 1.2 on your computer screen and 1B in your printed out learner workbook. So you might want to write on your workbook, refer page 16, learner guide. So 1.2 or 1B is confirm individualised plan details with the person and with family and carers where appropriate. So, what is an individualised plan? Well, as we said earlier, an individualised plan is a personalised care plan.
On page 17, the question.
That's it, there you go. Each plan is specific to each client and their needs, because everyone is different, everyone has different needs. It includes all information relevant to care of the client. So we're talking general care requirements, records of health and well-being, daily needs, details of medication, and a whole lot more. Another way to look at this is that we have biology, psychology, social, and spiritual. This describes a person. Everyone has a biological history. Everyone has a psychological history and constant state. Everyone has different social forces in their life. And spiritually, I'm not talking religion, I'm talking about what gives a person a sense of hope and purpose. You need to understand that about everyone you work with, because that way you get a richer picture of who they are, and you're better able to create a personalised care plan. Now, you may not, depending on your role, be the one that's researching that. There may be someone else, but essentially you'll have access to a file that gives you a very good snapshot of who this person is and how we're going to help them. And it's individualised to them. With me so far, folks?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sorry, that was biological, psychological, social and spiritual.
Correct. But spiritual, put brackets, hope and purpose, not religious dogma. Confirming individualised plan details. Plans should be developed with clients, their family or their carers. Why do you think we need to do that? Why should we involve our clients' family and carers?
So then no, you go, ladies first.
Thank you. Because they know the person.
Yeah, they know them. That's right. Yeah, and we're really interested in learning about who that person is.
But also, you know, so they can keep in contact with, if their health is getting better, if it's decreasing, what can they do to help us and all the rest? That's
exactly right. Because a good support worker is connecting with all of these people and helping them all work towards the same purpose. But that's the person that's driving it. That's how it works. And that is called person-centred practice. So we treat the people we're working with as a person, not just a client. We take their opinions and thoughts into consideration. What do they want, need and expect? We gain a full understanding. We confirm details. Are they accurate? And it's so important to include the client in their own care. So think back to a time, and it wasn't that long ago, when people with disabilities were thrown into huge institutions. He didn't want to lose his job. He had to move to Warners Bay. He wants to keep his job, but he's a bit scared about catching public transport from Warners Bay to Cessnock. So you're the support worker and you want to support Fred to keep his employment or explore with him another option. So what I'm going to be Fred, okay? So
Can you shrink a bit?
I'm meant to be on camera. Hi. But what I'd like you to do is I'll start talking to you and take notes of this, the conversation that we have, and you can write eventually role play with Mark in class, and any notes you take, things that you pick up, you might add to your commentary. Is that making sense?
Yep.
All right. So I'm going to be Fred. Right. Hello.
Hey Fred.
Hello. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
They're saying I might need to leave my job. I don't want to leave my job. And they said that public transport, but I'm scared. I'm scared.
Okay, you're scared of catching the public transport, aren't you?
Yeah, scared.
Yeah? What
Scared.
is it that's scary about the public transport?
Oh, just, you know, don't know when, don't know how.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you caught buses before?
When I went to school.
Yeah.
Long time. Yeah.
The buses are still pretty good bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like riding on buses?
Sometimes. They took my lunchbox once.
Oh, that wasn't very nice.
No.
Was it? Oh, people won't do that to you on these bus trips.
No.
No. So, what do you think it might be like if we find out what buses can get you from your new home at Warners Bay to Cessnock?
You show me?
Yeah. What if we have a look at some? We can talk to the bus drivers. We'll get onto the bus company and we'll see what they can say.
They've got a map.
Yeah.
Map?
Yeah. There's maps. We can get on the computer.
Huh?
You like getting on the computer?
Computer. iPad.
Oh, on the iPad. We'll look up on the iPad.
Okay.
And we'll have a look at timetable.
Time out. So that's great. So what a support worker could do is arrange for someone to travel with Fred for over a week on that route.
Yep.
The other option that one of you might want to explore, how many dry cleaners are there in the region?
Yep.
I'm good at my work. Ready?
Okay. Yep.
You're up. Yeah.
Long way to Cessnock.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just passing the baton.
I look for job opportunities closer to home.
Oh, where's that?
Warners Bay.
Warners Bay.
Well, that's where you live at.
Yeah, they got dry cleaner.
Yeah, many.
Oh.
Well, Fred, like, what time do you start? What time do you finish?
I start at 10 o'clock, finish at 3. And it's 2 days a week.
What days are they?
They're Tuesday, Thursday. 2 days. I like my work.
Have you been working there very long, mate?
Oh, 5 years.
Oh.
Have to have party. Party.
Parties?
If I say goodbye. Say goodbye?
Well, maybe.
Mm.
Why don't we have a look and see what sort of options we can have?
Yeah.
So we could maybe try having someone, we'll get on the iPad, we'll look at the timetable and we'll see how it goes to be travelling.
Yeah.
Someone.
No.
We'll get someone to come and to get on the bus with you.
Yeah.
And then it's a long way to Cessnock, but you might not be able to make it for 10 o'clock. So then, if you don't make it in time, or it's too long, we can have a look around Warners Bay.
Yeah. Could I ride my bike, Warners Bay?
No, we'd have to see where we could see if we could get you another job first.
Yeah.
Why don't we save that? We'll put that idea at the back.
Yeah.
And just keep that as an emergency plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But we'll focus on buses first.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're done. So, the only other thing that may have been worth reflecting on is that Fred's got diabetes and a dicky knee, so it'd probably be good on many levels if he had to ride his bike a bit. So we, as the support worker, if we're seeing that Fred is liking the idea of working and owning at Warners Bay, then maybe we'd invest more energy in looking for that option. Does everyone feel comfortable with that?
Yeah.
What we just did? So,
Well, running the bike is a bit of a distance.
but if I'm living in Warners Bay and I'm going to Warners Bay, it may be doable.
Different side of the story, but working, like we are talking about working in Cessnock at the moment, but looking for another thing.
Yeah.
It's a different side, like you have to take in all considerations around the place or where he's working.
You betcha. Yep.
Until he gets a job,
Yeah.
either a transfer or a move.
Yep.
Moved to a new dry cleaners, because it's not as easy these days to get that.
You're spot on, AJ. All right. So, has everyone made some notes in 1B? And you feel confident about tackling that?
So basically, this activity is.
You'll put a note in there saying role play with Mark in class, and any other observations you made, just list them under that. So we're looking at activity 1C in the workbook or 1.3 in the learner guide. Ensure the person is aware of their rights and complaint procedures. Client rights. So in general, what rights do you think the people we support would have compared to us?
They've all the same rights as anyone else.
Absolutely, 100% spot on. There is no difference between the rights that any of us have and the rights that people we support with have. So it's important to make sure that our client is aware of their rights. Your client may have the right to receive appropriate care relevant to their needs, be treated with respect and dignity, live with privacy, free from abuse or neglect, not be victimised or discriminated against, make their own decisions and have those decisions respected, be treated as an individual, and make a complaint, and also withdraw from service at any time. So, hear me when this is important, because with the introduction of the National Disability Insurance Scheme, for the first time in a long time, if the person you're supporting chooses to leave your company, they can. And that's a relatively new thing. Also, by law, when all of you signed up to do this training, you were shown a complaints procedure, that you can make complaints. And anyone that buys a good or service has to be shown complaints procedure by law. So it's very important. Complaints procedure. Important to ensure clients are aware of complaints procedures in place. Nature of complaints will differ. We need to acknowledge, assess and respond to, follow up any complaint made. Could be made in person, in writing, over the telephone or over an email. By dealing with complaints effectively, relationships can be improved and standard of care is improved. So here's the bottom line. any organisation that is worth its salt engages in a process called continuous improvement. And the only way that you can continually improve is to have a complaints procedure and incident reporting procedure, because they're the things that tell you where you need to improve. On top of that, if somebody says, Mark, your training, I don't understand what you're saying. I can't learn the way you're training me. If I say, oh, go away, is that helping?
No, that's basically you can make a complaint and it will be assessed and everything.
Yeah, so
especially being on camera.
Yeah.
You can lose your assessor training.
Yeah. So I need to listen to people that complain, because that helps me learn how to improve. And just so you know, when you're talking, I'm summarising what you're saying for the camera so that other students can hear about your comments. Does that make sense? Because you guys aren't mic'd. So I'll be summarising what you say to me so they get it.
Oh, cool.
Okay?
Goodness, where?
No naughty words. No words that aren't in the Bible, thank you.
Praise the Lord.
Yes. Okay, activity 1C. So that's question 1C. And you've got 3 questions there. First, essential to ensure that your clients are aware of their rights, considering your own organisation, outline the rights that your clients have. So you can easily do that by Googling what are the rights of people with disabilities in Australia. And you just need to list 10 of those, remembering that their rights are no different to ours. Question 2, also important to ensure your clients are aware of complaints procedure, summarised complaint procedure that is in place within your own organisation. Once again, you could either refer to the complaints procedure you've got in our student handbook, or you could Google Complaints Procedure Disability Services Australia.
Is that number 2?
Yep.
So what, you can do either a complaint?
No, you just outline the process. So look at a complaints procedure and say, step 1, organisation receives complaint. Step 2, we acknowledge the complaint within 24 hours.
So list how it goes.
Correct. And question 3, what I'd like you to do, rather than us doing a role play here and now, I'd like you to write a dialogue. So the first person is the support worker, and you're explaining the complaints procedure to, you know, an imaginary client. Yeah?
Well, are you allowed to, like, if you're having dramas with work, like, yeah, talk to a support worker or someone that is in the field to help you out with it?
Yes, you can.
But by rights, can you actually talk to the clients about it? I don't think you can.
Oh yes, it's very important that when you have...
No, if the client is putting that, I can understand, yes, you can talk to them about the issue and everything. But I mean, are you saying if you're having problems or if the client's having problems? If the client's having problems. Because you're imagining that you are the support worker and you're working with a new client and you're explaining to them how the complaint procedure works. Yeah? So explain how the...
Yeah.
So that's number 3.
Yep. And you're writing, you know, 2 people having a conversation. So person 1 is you, the support worker, and person 2 can be, you know, it could be this guy we made up, Fred. So you're explaining it in a way that Fred understands.
Fred's going to work out. Rough end of the stick.
Okay, has everyone got notes for that question?
Just put one more down.
Okay.
Definitely not.
You right?
Yep. I'll go there.
Everyone good to proceed? So now we're moving to activity 1D in the workbook.
Page 23.
Yep.
Sorry, 20.
1D. There you go.
More than I wonder.
Right.
22, sorry.
Yep. And in the learner guide, that would be
24.
page 24 in the learner guide. All right. So now we need to look at the idea, work with the person to identify actions and activities that support the individualised plan and promote the person's independence and rights to make informed decisions. Supporting the plan. So we want to work with the client to identify actions and activities that can support their individualised plan. So most individualised plans would have maybe, I don't know, 5 key goals. And each of those goals are measurable. They have a timeline so that we can measure progress. The goals might be something like getting support with accommodation, or getting support to maintain or get employment, or having personal care in their home, or having cleaning services at their home, or assistance with home maintenance, modification, or support with shopping, or support with transport. So it could be a combination of any of those types of goals. And those goals, why do you think we'd... what's the bigger goal when you're supporting someone to get employment?
To increase their independence.
Absolutely. So the over goal is about promoting independence.
Confidence.
And confidence and all of that. And really all of these...
Retaining memory.
Yeah, all of that. You know, bigger goals that fundamentally support a person's independence and self-determination. That's the uber goals. Because the more independence we promote, the better, provided it's safe. So independence is an important attribute, essential to promote client independence, encourage them to do as much as possible, help clients improve the quality of their life, help clients maintain their pride and dignity, help them in a way that they are comfortable with. It depends on the individual, on their particular situation. For example, it could be as simple as making a cup of tea. And for some people that is a great achievement. For other people, you know, maybe going to the Smithsonian Institute in America because they're fascinated by space and want to be an astronaut. All of these, it depends on the individual. Promoting a client's right to make their own decisions. Clients have the right to make their own decisions, no matter how insignificant they seem. For example, they should be encouraged to decide what to wear, who to talk to, what activities to participate in, whether to go out into the garden or not, whether to read the paper. Depending on the people you're working with, these are big decisions. For others, the decisions are perhaps more integrated, but for some it can be as simple as this. Now, another thing I'll mention, the idea about encouraging people to do as much as possible. Why do we think that's important?
So they don't lose their knowledge of how to do that task?
Yes, good. So they don't lose knowledge. By doing, they retain knowledge. Yes. Repetition. There's another reason.
To learn, work different ways, do it differently.
Yeah. To learn.
Expand.
Yeah.
Expand off that. Like,
yeah. Yep.
Come up with ideas, help them out, like work together.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Now, there's still yet another reason. Let me tell you a story. My son is 8 years old. He leaves his Lego across our entire... We've got a wooden floor, so there's no give. It's like a minefield. So I'll say to my son, Levi, you need to clean your Lego up. No. Why should I? Well, Levi, if you don't, then you can't have iPad for a week. No. Now, eventually he does clean up his Lego, even though he's not happy about it. Why am I doing that when I know I could clean it up in 2 minutes? Why would I insist on him cleaning it up?
It's
Responsibility.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say responsibility and safety, personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Safety.
So if I did it for Levi, he won't learn. So often people would like you to do things for them, and they may feel, unhappy that you're not doing it for them.
Well, you've got to, you seem like an intelligent man yourself, but you've got to look at the ways of, I don't know if these are divorced, if these are together.
We're together.
Right. So, what is he doing at school? When he goes to our friends' places, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
You've got to look at them reasons.
Yeah.
Work with him, not threatening to take toys away.
No. Yeah.
You use it or you lose it.
Yeah.
Sorry, AJ.
Yeah.
He's got the independence, he knows what's coming when he hits, 16, 18, 20, when he gets out of school, goes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a life skill. So we're all in agreement, I think. So encouraging people to do as much as possible means often that you might do with, but you don't do for. Particularly if that person is capable of doing it. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, we're up to activity 1D. Again, I'll ask you to write a dialogue, and you need to create a fictional client, or you may be aware of someone. And what the question is asking you to do is identify 2 key objectives. And they could be 2 things out of this list. And what you do is have a conversation on paper with your imaginary client, or perhaps you have one that you can talk to, and help them to identify actions. Let me give you one example. Say, going back to Fred, He's in Warners Bay. And Fred lives in a share house, but they really need one more person to share the rent. So your conversation with Fred and his housemate may be, well guys, how can we find someone else that might want to share the rent with you here? And that way you're enabling Fred to maintain his accommodation. Does that make sense? So that's one example of what you could write about. Perhaps Fred needs cleaning service because Fred's arthritis is getting a lot worse. So, okay, Fred, maybe we need to approach NDIS and write in your care plan that, you know, the doctor's verifying that you need support with cleaning because of your arthritis. Maybe we can make a submission to the NDIS caseworker, case planner. When your plan is reviewed, here we've collected all the evidence and yes, you need support because physically your knees are deteriorating. Does that make sense? So that's what we're looking for, 2 examples.
So you identify one fiction character and then 2 objectives, that's it?
Yeah, and explain, have a conversation on paper. Yeah.
So you talk to myself and be mental.
Yeah. You're the worker, and then imagine what the customer would say. You got it. Is everyone clear about that? Yep. Okay. And we did that.
To do this study.
Yeah. Sorry?
I'll be out in the bush with my laptop.
Perfect.
My generator on the back.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to the next question.
Right, so that was...
So this is activity 1E or 1.5 in the learner guide.
1A, 24.
And what page on the learner guide are we looking at for 1E? Page 29 on the learner guide. Okay, so we're still on the first element, and this is all about continuing the story of determining support needs. So, you're about to go on shift working with your client, and you need to prepare for the activities according to the person's individual plan, preferences and organisational policies, protocols and procedures. So, policies, protocols and procedures. A policy says this is what we must do, and protocols and procedures tell you how to do that. Make sense? A policy says this is what we must do. Protocols and procedures, here's how you actually do it. Okay, so given that every person you work with has an individual plan, that means you determine the work you'll actually do with them based on that plan, based on the client's preferences, and based on the organisation's policies and procedures. So the whole point of what we do in this industry is about addressing the needs of the client. That's what we do. Question 1E. Activity 1E. And you've got 2 questions. First is explain how organisational policies, procedures, protocols affect the provision of support activities and services in your workplace. So how do policies, procedures, protocols affect the work you do? Well, quite simply, the policies tell the employee what they must do, and the procedures and protocols tell the worker how to actually do it. And
What was the second one you said, sorry?
this is question 1.
Oh, for protocols and procedures.
Yeah, that question. So the policies, the organisation policies, every organisation has their own policies and procedures. So you look up whatever the subject is that's relevant to working with a client. The policy tells you what you must do, and the procedures and protocols tell you how to actually do it. You know, this is the form you have to use when you're doing this thing with your client. And question 2 is relevant to what you did in activity 1D. So in the previous question, you identified 2 things, didn't you? So it's saying plan to prepare support activities correspond to the actions activities you identified for client plan in activity 1D. So you've got 2 things you identified. You write them in the first column. And then you've got, it says how to support in accordance with clients' preferences and specific needs. So we talked about, we talked about accommodation support, and the example I gave you was client needs new housemate, supporting client to, I don't know, what would you do? You might go Gumtree, would you? Or
I would actually, instead of going Gumtree, I would probably post it on a media page, like that is Commonwealth. Like a lot of people are sharing their house on Facebook.
Yeah, social media.
Social media.
Yeah, good answer.
Talk to some of your mates that are struggling. Like say, hey, this is cheaper.
Good answer, OJ. So I think, you know, there's an example of what you might do as a support worker to support someone looking for a housemate, so their accommodation is okay. So you might use social media, their social media. And the third column, how to support in accordance with organisational protocols and procedures. So we all know that our rights, and you've answered this in an earlier question, are the same as people with disabilities. And one of those, the right for privacy, confidentiality, and to the right to associate. Yeah? So you can choose, provided they're not bikers in Queensland, which friends you hang around with. That's a human right. So we need to ensure that whatever work we're doing to support our client honours their rights, because that's what the policies and procedures will say. Is this making sense? Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Great.
So is there, you would presume that their right to safety is overridden by their right of choice?
That's an interesting question. So this is called dignity of risk versus duty of care. And the way we manage that is by doing hazard assessments under WHS. So the other thing we do is we'd consult with everyone in our client, you know, provided we're given permission. So we'd talk to family and carers. We'd talk to, you know, community groups that clients connected with, but that's all driven by the client. Or if there is a guardian in place, then they're first port of call.
If there's a what?
Guardian.
Oh, guardian.
Yeah. So,
isn't they always first brought in, like?
if there is a guardian, the guardian comes first always, yes. But not all people with disabilities have appointed guardians.
Oh, really?
Really, yeah. Depends on their situation. Activities.
Yeah, why it's like for some of the people, I'm assuming not painful, that's a great sport.
Well, it depends on the individual. Psychiatric disabilities that are not physically impaired, so they're quite capable of going for a surf or whatever. But there's also people who are wheelchair bound, and it's very dangerous for them to go surfing. So now with that table, don't make it too complicated for yourselves. It could be quite simple examples, but I'm hoping you've all got the gist of, you know, how we do it. So that's dealt with question 1D, and we're about to move into the second element, which is activity 2A, or 2.1 in the learner guide. Pardon me. So this is about conducting exchanges with the person in a manner that develops and maintains trust. So when we mean exchange, another word you could use is relationship. You want relationships with the people you're working with that develops and maintains trust. Very important. So, developing and maintaining trust. How can we do that in practice? Well, being truthful, not lying or hiding things, is one way that you build trust. Giving straight answers. A very simple way of putting that is let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Not letting your bad mood show. If you're the professional caregiver, you put away your stuff when you're at work, emotionally. You don't make other people deal with your bad mood. We need to be patient, because a lot of the people we work with in disability support may have trouble communicating. Some people with acquired brain injury,
instead of them communicating what they will do when they are angry,
talk like that. And you have to be patient and just listen. You can be tempted to finish their sentence for them, but that is disrespectful. Or other people may not be able to talk at all, but they're fully aware. So it's so important to be patient and give people space to communicate. If we make a promise to someone we're working with, we must follow through on that. And if we can't, then we're honest and straight up and saying, look, I thought I could do this, but I'm afraid I can't. I'm sorry. And it's very important to take time to ask the people you're supporting, how are you going? How do you feel? And then we zip up and we listen. We never talk over them. We listen. Very important. This is how you build trust and rapport. Now remember, people in the disability sector are now buying you under the NDIS. They are like a customer that's walked into a milk bar. And if I'm behind the counter and someone walks into my milk bar, some of you may remember milk bars, they were like general stores, and someone walks in and I'm behind there and I say, "You right?" Or, "What do you want?" Do you think that person will keep coming back?
Nope.
No. In the same way, if you do not build trust with the people you're working with, they leave. And your company may not have the money to keep paying your wage. So building relationships on trust are so important. And it's also the right thing to do. So now we're looking at activity 2A. And that is a role play activity. And what we're going to do is role play it, but then you'll need to write a summary of about 150 words.
No, I don't know if I can write a summary and just like put it on this and rip it off.
Just, yeah, just bullet points, mate. Just the key points. Yeah. So the question is asking you to engage in a morning greeting, a general conversation, answering an inquiry, handling a compliment. And we want them to be positive interactions. And we want to reflect on the behaviours I used to develop and maintain trust. So, I think I might be the client, and we'll take turns in doing that. And what I'm keen for each of you to do is be mindful of these points. So we're just about to do a role play. I'm the client, and you'll see on activity 2A.
Excuse me, are we using Fred? Are you Fred or who are you?
We'll see. So be mindful of these things, and each of you need to do a morning greeting, general conversation, answering an inquiry, handling a complaint. And we'll start here.
Okay.
And my name is George, and I have an acquired brain injury. I'm about 50 years of age.
So, morning, George.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
So, we're going to have exciting plans today.
What?
Well, what would you like to do today?
I was thinking about beach.
Wow, I love the beach also.
Yeah.
So we'll have to prepare a bag to take to the beach.
Beer?
Beer and water don't mix.
I have question.
Yes, George.
Can I have my cigarettes?
By all means, George.
Yes, ran out.
Okay. Well, we'll have to check your wallet, and maybe on the way to the beach, after we pack our hat and swimmers and rash shirt and towel and sunblock, perhaps we can stop on the way and we can get you your packet of cigarettes.
Okay. You know other worker, John?
Yes, John.
He was rude.
In what way, George?
Driving car.
Oh, driving with other motorists or with you?
Me.
Oh, I'm sorry that happened, George. How about we report that?
Okay, good, thank you. So, the only comment I'll make, and what you did was excellent, but with an acquired brain injury, I may struggle to talk, but I could be fully...
Yeah, coherent.
Yeah, so I'm not suggesting what you did was wrong, but be mindful that I might be able to articulate and process as well as you. So we need to be careful about how we engage with the other. And the only way you can know that is to have more information, which you don't have right now.
Yeah.
But that's okay. You did very well. All right. My name is Frank, and I'm bipolar 2.
Okay. G'day, Frank.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
Well,
Is that a good or a bad
I just had my medication.
Did you, mate?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how about you have a sit down then?
Sit down.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Room.
I'm okay. I'm
You're
okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Sure?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright. What's the matter, mate? It's okay.
Oh, I just saw a thing.
I think? Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. Have you had your cup of coffee this morning?
Oh, coffee. That'd be great.
Yeah, alright. Can you make yourself a cup of coffee? Or should we both go in together and...
Oh, you can do it if you want.
No, we're going to go in together and make a cup of coffee each.
Okay.
And then we're going to have a sit down.
Okay.
Yeah.
When's film night?
Film night, I think this week we'll have to check the diary when
This-
film night is.
Ah.
Okay, and then, yeah, we'll have a check of the diary. What movie do you think you might want
Gone
to see?
with the Wind.
Oh, that's a long one.
It's about people that do blowies.
That's a bit appropriate, isn't it, Frank?
Okay, now I need to tell you, Georgina
Yeah.
didn't let me have my morning coffee yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm upset.
Yeah. Do you think that's really something that you need to get totally upset about?
Well, she was a bit